From principal contracts to security at Charleston County Schools to the latest on the Charleston County School Board, Charleston County School Board member Kevin Hollingshead speaks exclusively to me for the special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. Mr. Hollingshead, it is so good to see you again.
It's been a couple of months, hasn't it?
It has been. And since that time, there's been a lot going on down at 75 Calhoun Street.
Yes, a lot.
Tell me, and I hate to ask this, but what letter grade would you get the Charleston County School Board and the school district right now, in your mind?
Honestly, maybe a C- or a D.
What brought you to that conclusion?
We have turmoil right now. As you saw in the news, dependent of principals, dependent of teachers, there's anarchy within the district. It concerns me. Our community is no greater than the schools that surround it, the parents that participate in it, and the teachers that we have within it. Our superintendent, which I think is a charming lady, I question the method of operation on how she's done things. I know she apologized,
Right.
but my thing is we pay you too much money. And she told me personally within the conversation, this isn't her first rodeo. Well, if this isn't your first rodeo, you wouldn't be making these mistakes, these catastrophic mistakes that we're having. Charleston's a very unique society, very unique neighborhoods. It's that way for a reason. And as I told her when we had our first meeting, there's a way to deal with parents in the communities in Charleston County. And you have to be very delicate how you deal with that. And right now, she put herself into a fight. As a board member, I even question my other board members because we have 5 board members, which some people call the Gang of 5,
Right.
that rubber stamp everything she says. I'm sorry, but I was elected by the public to be the steward of the public, to make sure I watch over their tax dollars and also their educational values for their community. So I'm just not there to rubber stamp. It's nothing personal, Quintin.
Right.
It's just that the time that I spent touring the county, asking people for their votes, asking them to entrust me, you think I'm just going to turn around and say, okay, go ahead. That's not me. That's never been my family values. My father has served in Charleston County for well over 50 years before his passing. My sister that served in Charleston County for many years before she passed. We have a legacy here of being a working family that represents working people. And that doesn't change. That's what's instilled within me.
Right.
We're a blue-collar family. So I see things within the district. As I said the other day in the board meeting, she wants to do a tour to talk to teachers and the public. I think that needs to be a climate sensor done by an outside agency so people can feel not threatened and not in fear of their jobs, so they can speak how they really feel. And it be governed and covered and cloaked so we can come back and evaluate it as a board. You just can't say, oh, I'm just going to do something and then come back and think people are going to trust you. Trust is something you have to earn. And I even question the method of the Pending 15 principles. I asked the question, has this been done anywhere else across the country? As it was told to the board members, everybody is pointing the finger and saying, no, we didn't say it, we didn't say that. The first time it was talked about EVOS is with board members. That was what was used to determine what was going on. And all of a sudden everybody said, oh, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. But it was. I was the only board member that asked the question, is this the only method that you're using? Everybody's sitting there, one board member said, well, the numbers fit, the numbers fit. I'm sitting there saying, I know there's got to be more to it than numbers. Just last night, we had a teacher, staff member talk about numbers. And she said there were a variety of things that go along with just numbers. Culture or climate. the number of students you have, the data that you have with the students move, the involvement of the parent, the involvement of the team teachers, the involvement of the school. All those things are a mixture of ingredients to bring about a healthy atmosphere. So it just can't be just about the numbers. So, you know, again, Charleston County School District is a $500 million agency. $500 million. And we can't play around with that. We already have schools within our district not meeting the grades. I think we need to prioritize the schools that are not making it, and we need to make sure that we have the teams in place to go into those schools and work on test scores. It's interesting that I was at a seminar several months back when they were pushing charter schools at Royal Missionary Baptist Church. And Roland Martin, you know, the host was there. And I'm not a big charter school fan. I'm just about what's right for public education.
Okay.
But he said one interesting thing. He said superintendents always come to a district and always talk about a 5-year plan. And then they want to implement a 5-year plan, and then at the end of the 5 years, nothing really happens or no significant gains are made. He says, I'm tired of 5-year plans. I want somebody to come to a district and get to work right then and there. It kind of got to me then, but it stuck with me when I left that seminar. So I'm challenging the other board members to stop being a rubber stamp. You know, we come in and everybody sits there and it's this thing that one tries to be smarter than the other. One thinks they know more than the other. I'm a practical guy. I went to college, worked on my master's. I studied, man. I studied. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but if you give me a couple of minutes and some time to do some research, I'm very good at what I do. I used to be a police officer and an investigator at one time. I was very good at figuring things out and solving problems.
You talk about a 5-year plan. Have you looked at Dr. Postlewaite's 5-year plan?
Well, she introduced a strategic plan the other day, and I have had community leaders, former principals, former superintendents across the state. I got an array of friends over the time that I've been in existence, from my college to the community, area superintendents, and they all have been calling me. And over the last couple of months have been meeting me and grilling me, asking me questions, because what's happening in Charleston County, everybody's talking about across the state. And they're asking themselves, who's running the ship? And I'm sitting there saying, well, this is what's going on. And as you see right here, I got my homework, man. You see 10 pages. These are from educators across the state, man, sending me notes about what's going on in Charleston County, things I need to look out for.
So what things should you be looking out for right now?
Well, we need to look at one of the things is how the money's being spent. You know, we just lost our CFO the other day. And, you know, I had folks that actually called me and told me about it. And they said he had been gone 3 weeks. The superintendent said, nah, 10 days. My folks said, nah. Now, you know, she told me, she says, well, you know, you're always getting people that call you Mr. Hollingshead. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to listen. If you were doing the right thing, I wouldn't have to listen. I can tell you of a time back when I used to start out when I was in college. I started out working for the sheriff department in Columbia. Similar situation. We had a sheriff, man. He was this ironclad dude. Man, you couldn't even twitch your finger without somebody either cheesing on you. There's turmoil, but they paid a lot of money, so people had a lot of stress on them because they were stuck to the dollar, but they weren't happy. And see, our superintendent within the last 2 years had given out these tremendous bonuses, which put us $8 million in the hole in the first place. You know, the $18 million. And then we didn't have to kind of balance that ship. But I'm questioning some of the people now that I'm hearing that got these raises, their professional background. Let me tell you something. She just announced we had an African-American lawyer that was added. I think it's going to be a great young sister. I know of her family. I think she's going to be pretty good. But we made no significant gains in African-American principals. We lost some, she added some. we're still like even. There's no gains. In the critical areas of schools like Shakur, I understand they're trying to push principals out of Shakur. They're trying to push principals out at Pepper Hill. The principal at West Ashley High. Some of these things I heard from community leaders that called me and saying that, Mr. Hollingshead, we're hearing some of these things are personal. I said, huh? They said personal. Now, I stopped and paused for a minute because you would think a CEO of an organization or someone running an organization will make decisions based upon career decisions, not personal.
Okay, some of these folks are coming to you saying that those are personal issues for why these people are leaving, and you have the Charleston County School District saying something else. Describe communication when it comes to the Charleston County School District in your mind.
Well, they're going to put the best face for it on anything that they do. It could be raining outside, they're going to tell you it's sunny. Look what happened with the CFO of our financial institution. And when he left, they put a good spin on it. You know, we don't want to own up to our mistakes and then say how to fix the mistakes in a positive way.
Was it a mistake to hire him as CFO for the Charleston County School District?
Well, you know, he's gone now, but I want to look at his resume. I want to look at his background. I had folks from as far as Greenville call me about him. I'm curious. I'm curious. I don't want the next person taking that job to assume that job until we have a forensic audit done.
Okay.
To make sure everything is square and balanced for the next person taking over. Make sure all our title funds are straight.
Okay.
To make sure that we're not looking for a significant increase of taxes the next year, which I'm hearing we may be.
Right.
We had just had a surplus of $35 million. The year before, a shortage of $18 million. So to do the math, it was about 55 million to the gain. We got to see how that balances out now next year. There are a lot of things into running that institution I have questions about. Now I'm gonna tell you something.
Okay.
I had to do my homework. You know, I had to do my homework. I have folks, like I said again, from across the state, asking me questions.
About the Charleston County School District.
About the district and what I know about what I'm doing. You know, I have good friends that want to make sure I do a good job.
Are they asking the right person?
Yeah, because I'm a steward of the board.
Okay. Well, let me take you to the board because this headline appeared on abcnews4.com just recently. It says this: Charleston School Board says no to longer principal contracts, private security. I'm curious, what else would you add to that headline, knowing what you know from Monday?
The stability of our district.
Okay.
Where we're able to bring teachers in. That is the most vital thing that needs to go into that. Understand, there's turmoil. Now, you already have a shortage of teachers, a shortage of principals, and then you got across the state, and then it may be across the country, but right now across the state, that we are having problems keeping teachers and principals. Do you think, I don't care how much you pay him, you think somebody wants to come here for that? That's a good candidate? Or what they're gonna say is gonna get somebody who just wants to make that money and run? That's the scenario that we put ourselves in. We don't think about the big picture of things. We think about, oh, how do we get to the meeting with the board members right now? And everything goes back to the same old once the board members walk out the door.
Board members actually, as you know, spent 7 hours poring over a long list of agenda items, including principal hiring contracts, according to abcnews4.com. And board member Chris Collins pushed for principals to sign at least 3 to 5 years as far as contracts. And I know City Bone Coates agrees with the principal retention is an issue, but she says that she's opposed to this one particular approach. So what approach should you guys take with this?
City Bone Coates is against anything that Chris Collins says. Go back and look at the footage for the last 3 years. I plan to look at something I'm going to propose, hopefully, if I get it on the agenda by the next board meeting.
Okay.
Just to fill the air. There needs to be a retention of principals. You just can't throw a principal in a situation and think he's going to turn it around in a year. Now, you may make some gains, but the principal is only as strong as the teacher team that he hires and puts in place, and his management skills.
Well, the push, let me turn to that, because the push for, and this is a different subject here, but the push for a 15-person district-operated security team. According to abcnews4.com, Chris Collins wants to increase security at Charleston County Schools because security measures are lacking in the district in his mind. So what is lacking with security in the Charleston County Schools?
Well, I think Chris Hart was in the right place. He just wanted to do research on it. Wasn't saying that we were going to fund that immediately.
Okay.
He wanted to see what the climate was. I think Chris is always concerned about the number of disruption that happens in the school, and the kid is put in police officer's custody and as adjudicated arrest for a juvenile. And Chris is concerned about that, and he knows what happens is they're turned over to the parent anyway.
Right.
But Chris doesn't want that interaction. So he wanted to find a better way of dealing with that. So he wanted the research done in that particular area.
And I know they didn't want to discuss it on Monday, so when will you guys listen to this item?
You know what? I think a lot of things are going to change after 16 months when we have a new board election. You know, we still have a society out there in the community that's upset. I don't think that's going away. You lived here just not as long as I have, but you're born here, and you see how Charleston people act when it comes to an election time. We've got to watch and see what happens in the election. I know the group West Ashley's upset.
Right.
I heard a pocket in Mount Pleasant upset. I get phone calls. They slowed down this week a little bit. I was happy. but going into graduation, man,
right.
My phone was ringing off the hook.
Blowing up, eh?
I maybe got 5 calls today.
Wow.
And I got some personal things done. But you know, folks are definitely upset. I'm seriously concerned about the movement of principals. I'm concerned that what the superintendent has not done, and what I've been hearing, none of her staff has made it to visit those schools. None of her staff, neither herself, has visited those schools. They did not do any workout plans with those principals to make sure that things were going well. And so then they look at the numbers, and for some reason, if a principal questions her in the principal meeting, she gets mad and she wants to move the principal. Very interesting. That's why our society and that put together, our forefathers put together boards to make sure that we have a check and balance. You know, we have this thing now. When I first got on the board, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I said, boy, Chris Collins kept telling me coherent governance, coherent governance. I'm like, what in the heck? This joker keep talking about coherent governance. Then I had some friends upstate call me and explain that is what our board and our superintendent believes in. She wants all the power. She doesn't want to answer to the board. But in that book, I think it's John Calhoun, I think it's the book that they sent me that I started reading. That book talks about, if you read the whole thing through, it talked about there is checks and balance. It did talk about the board being checks and balance of everything. It's not about letting the superintendent do everything, but again, our board members say, rubber stamp. Rubber stamp.
Why now? Why the power with the superintendent now? Why now? When this never really happened before?
Well, we had superintendents in the past that respected the board.
Right.
We have superintendents in the past that we have strong board members. I might not agree with them, but they were strong, independent-minded people. And they knew their role as a public servant. The board members now that we have, some of them are just, they're there. And they're scared maybe, I don't know.
Let me turn to the Governor McMaster. As you know, the budget, he vetoed a couple of things in the budget, and it includes some, I guess, cuts for education in South Carolina. Where are you with that issue?
Well, we're going to have to see what the election holds for him.
Okay.
You know, he's trying to be a hardline Republican. don't know what's in his mind, man. You know, sometimes people do things and you scratch your head. You just gonna have to watch and see when he runs for re-election.
Okay. Well, Kevin Hollingshead, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Good to see you, too.
Likewise.